Take a look at the Busch race summary coming off that 7-car crash. In fact, we've had 3 different wrecks in this race, with Danica Patrick cycling through the leader at the moment. 16 lead changes already in time now for the Fox NASCAR mid-race report live from Talladega, Alabama. Nice to have you watching. With the threat of rain at the start of the race, things were sped up. Rookie pole sitter Chase Elliott led the first 13 laps. The favorite for today, Dale Earnhardt Jr., triggered a 4-car wreck on lap 50.
Boyer is in, and Danica Patrick assumes the lead.
Mike, I'll tell you one thing. I watched that 78 make his pit stop. They are on it tonight.
Boy,
they have had flawless pit stops so far.
And I thought Matt Kenseth really got to pit road even a little bit more aggressive than he did. But when they left pit road, he gapped them.
Yeah, he stretched it out.
Wow, it's not too often you do that to Matt Kenseth on pit road.
No, I'm just watching those guys. Of course, they're in the best pit stall. They got the #1 spot down there, but they've been nailing those stops.
Truex's lead was 3.6 seconds before pit stops. It's now about 3.4.
Well, what's going on with that 6 car? But got something dragging really, really bad.
Oh, man, he's trailing Sparks about 30, 40 feet out the right side of the car behind him.
Casey Mears gets a lap back from Danica Patrick, and Martin Truex Jr. goes back to the lead.
He goes ahead and hits those lugs on that left, or tries to get that tire out, just hits the fender a little bit due to some cosmetic damage. Meanwhile, the 47 Allmendinger, his car plowing tight, but no grip in the rear as well.
A little trouble for the 19 on left side that time, a little slow.
Uncontrolled tire for the 95, Michael McDowell. And about 6 seconds was the difference. That's how long it took once Hamlin and Kyle Busch went by before Edwards and Allmendinger exited the pit. So that's how much they gained by stopping earlier and getting those fresh tires.
You know,
here's your leader, Danica Patrick.
Mike, something I don't want to hear. This is the money stop, because it seems like everybody comes up short every time we hear that from a crew chief.
Well, it's great to see Danica Patrick out leading this race.
Well, she's one of 3 cars that stopped back at lap 47. Casey Mears in second, and Cole Witt in 14th are the others.
Yeah, she's had a good car all weekend, qualified well, practiced well. She's been very happy with her race car, leading the race right now. 19:49 last time by. Not a bad lap time for this far into a run.
But she and Mears are going to need a stop, and Mears about to give up second place to a charging Hamlin and Busch. Whoa, that's a tough place to pass.
Man, well, he did. Kyle Busch couldn't make up his mind if Mears was going to get out of his way or not. He had to hesitate there for a second.
Well, there's a big discrepancy in older tires versus newer tires, and you can just see, Casey Mears doing a great job holding on, but he knows that he's under a totally different pit scenario than what these other 2 are.
Danica hits for 7, and here come Hamlin and Busch. Lap 47 is when she was last on pit road. Same with Casey Mears. There's the difference in new versus worn tires.
Mike, I'm telling you though, those Danica, the last time by, 1946, that's as good as I've seen anybody run on older tires. So her car is pretty good.
"26 laps since she was last to pit road. And it'll be 36 laps to go in the Toyota Save Mart 350 at Sonoma. "76 laps complete." Here's the Coca-Cola Racing family update. Denny Hamlin, your leader. Danica Patrick now 4th. Joey Logano also in the top 10. And let's show you that pass for the lead 1 lap ago.
Yeah, it's coming off of turn 2.
Turn 1 down to 2 right there. Able to go around the outside. She gave him plenty of room.
Chris, what about the 10 strategy?
Well, Mike, early on, that first run in this race, Danica Patrick went a lot longer than everybody else. And right now, off strategy compared to everybody else. Billy Scott not giving me any idea when they're going to be coming to pit lane here. But she's been saying that car, the front end, especially losing grip and all the high-speed stuff and tight coming off the slow-speed stuff. Oh, Danica coming to pit lane this time.
Casey Mears stopped 1 lap ago. So now Danica will be the last car on the lead lap to make this stop.
Mike, I was asking you about Carl Edwards, and I think we just saw that he had I knew he had a long stop. I knew he had trouble on the left sides, but that was unbelievable. He went from, what did he say, 6 to 12.
So a big issue for Matt Kenseth. We'll see how bad that affects him when he comes back out onto the racetrack and everyone cycles through. Right now, Danica Patrick scored as the race leader. Ty Dillon running second. Ty was involved in the incident earlier. Matt Kenseth third. Martin Truex Jr. is fourth on the scoring chart. As we see Kurt Busch going by the 10 of Danica Patrick. Again, Danica scored as the race leader. Currently on the lead lap. There are 25 cars. Kurt Busch just in front of the 10 of Danica Patrick, and Kurt Busch running 25th.
Back at Watkins Glen, Joey Logano was the leader a moment ago. He did finally make his stop. Lap 34 was when they made the stop, but there was a problem on the stop. Joey Logano, like a lot of other people, too fast entering on pit road. It was a first gear entry for Logano, and they had actually talked about him backing down the RPMs just a little bit, but he too caught speeding. You see him coming in right now to serve that penalty as well. So many speeding tickets today here on pit road, Rick.
And it looks a lot like it's entering. A lot of drivers have been hit for entering pit road a little too fast when they're coming off of that turn 7.
The road courses can be very difficult on pit road because you're doing it in first gear. It's a different pit road speed than we see a lot of places. It's very difficult to do on the restarts. And then remember, NASCAR has added timing zones.
Right.
They've added more zones to keep people from trying to take advantage of speeding into their pit box. So if you make a mistake now, it's very difficult to slow the car down and get it to where your average speed over that amount of distance is within the rule.
Racing Austin Dillon now.
So listen, it looks easy. And I know people ask me all the time, well, how do you get caught speeding on pit road? Well, the reason you get caught speeding on pit road is because if the rule is 45, they don't bust you until you go 50.
Well, it's 40 here.
So
40 is the speed limit, so they go 45.
That's give you a 5 mile per hour limit. So if you go, the goal is to go 44.9. That's what you want to do. So all the drivers push it. And now that you're at a road course that's more difficult on pit road and they've added more lines on the loop, you have to give yourself a little more cushion to avoid that penalty.
Danica Patrick, race leader. She last pitted on lap 14. Dave.
So 76 laps left. She could make it. She will make it on 3 more stops. They're sure maybe 2 if crew chief Billy Scott decides to try to stretch it for the rest of the race. Speed hasn't been her problem this weekend. It's been all about brakes. In practice on Friday, she had braking issues. They had to replace a brake line that had rubbed a small pinhole in it. So after they rebuilt that, even today, she's still having some trouble with her brakes. But right now, out in front in that clean air.
And clean air is key around this racetrack. As long as you don't have someone in front of you that is messing up your braking zones, what you're trying to do as far as accelerating off of turns. Danica Patrick now leading at Watkins Glen. She has led 13 laps this season. Presented by Sprint. Sprint's network reliability now within 1% of Verizon. Switch today and save 50% on most Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile rates. Visit a Sprint store or sprint.com/network today. Danica Patrick, then Kyle Busch, who is about 6 seconds back from Danica Patrick. And Kyle has been on pit road at lap 26. Kyle and a few others will probably be on the strategy of just one more stop. Try to make it one more time on pit road before the end of this race. So everyone will be stretching it. Danica Patrick at least 2 more times. 1 more from where she stopped earlier. Parker.
Benedetto there in 8th, left career best run earlier this year at Bristol, finishing 6th. Before this race, I asked him, hey, Matt, how you doing? He said, I'm actually hanging on for dear life in the S's. But I feel like race-wise, if we can just get some crazy strategy to go our way, we can find our way to the front. And that's what he's done there. Also, Cole Witt running in 9th in that 98 car. Very small team. He told me before this race, we had a very good race practice. We also had a very good qualifying 22nd today. He's been very happy with the car, just a little bit tight, but also had pitted under the caution using that strategy to get into the top 10.
Danica Patrick out in front of the field at Watkins Glen. Kyle Busch runs second. Clint Boyer up to the top 3. Welcome back to Watkins Glen. And the Cheese at 355 at the Glen. Danica Patrick still out front, closing in. On Danica Patrick is the 18 of Kyle Busch, and strategy definitely coming into play. Quite a few teams on different strategies, Steve.
Well, we started with the keys to the race, 2 stops. That changed very quickly with someone like Danica Patrick, who pitted at the caution at lap 13. When to do the last pit stop, we're not going to find that out for another 15 or 17 laps. But what a variety of strategies. Basically, everyone you see that's pitted at lap 14, they still have to make 2 pit stops from here. The 18 of Kyle Busch, he's going to try to stretch it to 1 pit stop. The 2 of Brad Keselowski, I'm concerned. At lap 21 with no yellows, I'm not sure he could do it with 1 pit stop. And then you look back at the other teams. These guys are comfortable with 1 more stop, whether it's Denny Hamlin, the 41, the 24, the 1 of Jamie McMurray. A lot of teams really sticking to that 2-stop strategy, Jeff. But the problem is, then we had that rash of penalties that have really eliminated some contenders. If you're Joey Logano with a speeding penalty, A.J. Allmendinger with a speeding penalty, Jimmy Johnson with a slew of penalties, the question is, I don't know what they can do to get back towards the front, because the leaders, or some of the leaders like Kyle Busch, is only going to stop 1 more time anyway.
They have to have a series of cautions. They have to find a way for cautions to land at the right time, and then have several cautions, use restarts to get on that, use some strategy to get back, but they're going to have several cautions to make this up.
Steve, I'd really love to replay your audio when Brad Keselowski came onto pit road, because I think at that time you said, well, I applaud this move. They came in early, and now you're saying you're a little concerned about them coming as early as they did.
Well, I applaud the aggression, because they have a win. They're in the chase. What does it matter if they run out of gas or run out of gas? But I'm going to tell you, the car that's on the move is Kyle Busch. He's only 1.1 seconds behind our race leader, Danica Patrick. He was on pit road at lap 26. Probably a little outside their window. Maybe they need 2 or 3 yellows. They can easily get that in the second half of this race. But more than that, they're just fast, Rick. Every time we look at time and it's scoring, they're in the top 5 on lap time. He is really putting a clinic on how to be efficient at the road courses.
Yeah, Steve, I talked about people needing cautions. Well, the inner loop is a place we might see one. You see Blaney got in there hot, plowed through there, moved a bunch of grass. Look at the bottom of his grill.
Yeah.
He may have to pit again because the grill looked really dirty. It actually looks pretty clean right there. It looks like some of it may have fallen off. So I don't know. There is a lot there.
A lot of dirt, a lot of grass.
Yeah, that's going to be close where they'll have to pit. It may overheat, but that inner loop, once again, claims another one.
And that's just a situation getting in a little bit hot, maybe not braking as soon as they should have.
That's right, and when you make a mistake there because you're going so fast, you have to turn. We saw several cars didn't even try to make it. They just stayed straight, stopped in the inner loop. In this case, he tried to make the corner, hit the curb on the right really hard, ended up getting on the left curb very hard, just out of control through the grass.
And all that grass covering up the opening into the radiator. So to cool these engines off, that opening down just above the splitter, and a lot of that grass on that opening. Mike?
Clint Boyer has yet to score a top 5 this season, Rick, so a top 5 today would be huge for him. Road courses have been his savior. He's been pretty good on these no matter what the conditions are, and he's running well today. He's one of those cars who has not stopped since lap 14. They've been encouraging him to back up his entry a little bit, trying to save some fuel, although he feels like he can get a little bit more aggressive as time goes on. Marty?
Mike David Reagan in that same boat in the 5th position, having a very nice run. They too pitted at lap 14. They're going to go about 1 more lap here and then bring that 23 car in. You see Kyle Busch catching Danica Patrick for the lead. Remember, also David Reagan battling for that 30th spot in the championship standings. He has it right now, Rick.
Yeah, Chris Buescher way back in the field, running 33rd as opposed to David Reagan. Remember, every position is a point. The points could be even harder for Chris Buescher to find to get into the top 30. Up through the S's, Danica Patrick has the advantage over Kyle Busch, but Kyle Busch has been so strong catching her. We'll see if he's able to outbreak her going into the bus stop. He doesn't this time.
And I look behind Kyle Busch at that number 2 Miller Lite Ford, Rick. He has run almost a second faster than Kyle Busch since he has caught Danica Patrick. So Kyle is going to start feeling that pressure of having to get by the 10 as quick as possible.
And again, Brad Keselowski pitted about 5 laps earlier than Kyle Busch did, so he'll have less fuel and be on a little bit of a different pit strategy than what Kyle Busch is on. This, by the way, is the most laps Danica Patrick has led in a Cup car. And she will come to pit road now, and that puts Kyle Busch out front. Dave.
So 31 laps on that run with a couple of cautions before her fuel stops, so she should be able to cut the last part in half, to the end. One more stop from here for Danica. Very loose race car, so they're going to get an adjustment. Also, along with the 4 Goodyear tires and a full load of Sunoco fuel. Crew having us a little bit of trouble. Remember, these teams are pitting sort of backwards from what they normally do. The car's traveling in the opposite direction down pit road.
So, Rick, we always talk about wanting to pit under green. As odd as it sounds, Danica Patrick, the other cars that were forced to make this pit stop, they were looking for a caution here. They wanted to pin her to yellow, and green flag pit stop's going to hurt.
Kyle Busch out front, Brad Keselowski running second at the Glen.